What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916, and you tuned in to another edition of my vlog. I want to say thank you for subscribing to my channel. Thanks for sharing. You know, I'm all about that positivity and that motivation, and I try to keep you guys laced up. And I want to talk about success. Success is more than a desire. It's a behavior. You can't say that you want to be successful, yet you're doing none of the things that require you to be successful in life. For example, you want to be maybe a professional athlete. Maybe it's basketball. And rather than practice 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours a day, you're playing video games. You play maybe an hour or two a day. When you go to practice, maybe a little bit after practice, but other than that, you're not really putting forth the effort. You might be very talented and have a lot of potential, but that's not going to get you to the league. That's not going to get you even to Division I, because you're not putting forth the behavior which relates to being successful. You could take a lot of athletes throughout history and guarantee you they put in hours and hours to perfect their craft. Whether it's Serena and Venus Williams, whether it's Mike Tyson, whether it's Steph Curry, whether it's Marcus Allen, Walter Payton. You know, it takes hours and hours of a certain type of redundant or repetitive movements so that things become almost second nature. Look at Lewis Hamilton racing F1. You know, didn't have the best resources coming up, but his dad believed in him, and Lewis loved to race the karts, and he was sponsored by the time he was, 13, I believe, 13, 14, maybe 12. But lots of practice, lots of effort. And his behavior showed that he was serious. And if you want somebody to really believe in you and give you the opportunity, your behavior has to reflect the opportunity that's bestowed upon you. Do you think that someone would invest millions of dollars in you as an asset if they didn't think that you were gonna be worthwhile? Have you seen, when they say, hey, this guy was a bust? Tony Mandrich, back in the day for the Green Bay Packers. You had Brian Bosworth. You had, those are just off the top of my head, but you had, guys who were first round picks in sports, and they were a bust. And although their behavior prior to, that point of being exposed at the highest level showed that they had the discipline, when you're tested before the best of the best, you have to even step it up a notch. You have to take it to the next level. It's not for the weak, man. And I love watching 30 for 30s on ESPN. If you haven't watched them, you should go through and watch as many as you can. They're very inspirational. They show you what people have overcome as far as challenges, adversity, and you see how some people they didn't make it. Things didn't work out as though they planned, even though they had the potential. And I look at some of the things I did in life, and how much effort did I really put into those things. And if I would have put more effort into some of them, would I have been successful at them? If I would have had that person kind of like pumping me up, giving me input, making me feel more self-confident, would I have applied more energy to those things? I can kick myself in the ass for quitting a lot of things I did growing up. Skateboarding, I was skateboarding before it was cool. There was no black skaters really. There wasn't a bunch of people skating around like at the parks you have now. There's a handful of skate parks. We used to just skate in the street and find stuff and just tear it up. And there was no money in the sport back then. But I used to skate for hours and hours, and I'd go to a lot of skateboard decks and just breaking decks, breaking trucks, and wheels popping off and stuff. And it got to a point where I remember a family member saying, you're wasting money, you keep breaking all that stuff, it's a waste of money, and I can't keep buying all that stuff, man. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I got to figure something else out. I'll go on to something else. And then, I was doing the BMXing stuff kind of around the same time, but, BMXing was just as expensive. The different parts for your bike, and, the rims and the pegs and, all that stuff. And, just nobody really pushed me. So it led to me quitting a lot of things prematurely, where had I had that extra support, I think I would have been an animal, as far as in those sports, because I was really hard on myself when I didn't land or complete a trick, and I wanted to be good. And I learned a lot of stuff back then. We learned just by looking at pictures in magazines. You didn't have the videos and stuff to see how those tricks were actually landed. So unless you went somewhere to an event and actually seen Caballero or Tony Hawk or Mark Gonzalez or Natus Copus or Jesse Martinez or somebody actually do that trick, you could only imagine how that trick was performed. But it's crazy, man. That lack of just support in those areas, it by default led to the streets. It led to activities that had immediate reward, money, drugs, women, and it was all bad, man. No kid at 15 should be running around doing that stuff, man. Hanging around grown men that are, smoking weed with coke in it, drinking alcohol all day, and not really giving a damn about education. Nobody's pushing any of that stuff. Nobody's telling you that we're out here at the park doing these things, but had I stuck with what I was supposed to be doing, I wouldn't be here either. I would have maybe been playing football at a D1 school, or basketball somewhere, or just on a academic scholarship. None of those OGs told me nada. Even though a lot of them probably had that game, because they knew, the life that they lived wasn't all that. But I didn't know that, so I followed. I followed a dark path, and boy, it took me on a hell of a ride. It took me a long time to jump off of that roller coaster. So I say, you can't just desire to be successful. You have to have actions that are in alignment with that success, and be consistent, and know that, you've broken a few decks, you bruised a few shins doing some tricks, bumped your head, whatever the case may be, maybe, cracked some forks, or, twisted some handlebars, or, broke a few decks. But hey, if you're going to be a BMXer, if you're going to be a skateboarder, if you're going to be a basketball player, a tennis player, if you're going to be whatever it is you're going to be consistent and do it from your heart, and find people around you that's going to support you with it. And I used the analogy of just physical activity, sports and stuff like that, but even clothing, man. I had a clothing line I started when I was young, 16, and had no idea what I was doing. Me and my business partner, my little Asian partner man in Huntington Beach, shout out to B-Lou, and I had an idea, man. Let's start a clothing line. I was into hip hop and all that stuff, and I've seen all these people, having cool clothing in the music videos. So I started a clothing line, found somebody who did embroidery. We found a warehouse through the Yellow Pages that sold blank t-shirts and sweaters, and we started printing out clothing, man. And we were doing all right, man. We were the only people in the school at that time, probably our own little business, man, and we were hustling. We were in the OC putting it down. But I had no idea as far as, what a business license entailed, what scaling the business entailed, what incorporated entailed, how to go about distributing or stuff like that. So we got to a certain point, and then, it kind of got lost, and we dropped the ball. And if we would have stayed doing what we were doing, I'm sure we would have been multi-millionaires by now, because we had some stuff that was way ahead of the game. And once again, man, we were on the brink of success, and we had more than desire. Our actions were in alignment, but not working at maximum capacity, and we had no one to turn to. I reflected on all these shortcomings when I was in the pen on a bunk that was hard as a brick, staring at the ceiling, wondering, how did I get here? And it's like, man, if I could have a do-over, how you're playing a video game and you just push reset to try to, start the game over because you're getting, beat up, the game's kicking your butt. I said, man, if I could do a do-over, man, which actions in my life would I do over? Which ones would I try to recreate? And I just think back to those different things I was passionate about, man. And if I had that mentor, that person who would have took me under their wing, man, I would have never been in the pen. I would have never have been doing the stuff I was doing. I would have never have made all those foolish choices. So I want to see all you guys be successful. I just had somebody say, hey man, I'm about to graduate high school and I'm a great student, but I have one foot in school, one foot in the street. Man, you can't have one foot in the street, man. The streets are unforgiving, and it could be anything that happens in the street that could take you down. So you can't play with the streets. And whatever you're doing to become successful, you have to put maximum effort in. You have to have unwavering belief in yourself. You know, it doesn't matter what other people say. It doesn't matter what they think. It's what you believe in. You know, how you feel, because you know a lot of people, man, they don't have it, and because they don't have it, they don't want you to have it. You know, they get upset when they see somebody drive by in a car nicer than theirs, or have a watch nicer than theirs, or live in a house nicer than theirs, you know, or they worship the people on TV because they don't know them, but if they knew somebody close to them that had it, they would be mad at them. And I don't understand that, because, you know, anytime somebody is doing something that's exceptional and you have the opportunity to have them in your life, you should bless them, man. So, you know, that's one of the things I want to share with you guys. And I'm always trying to figure out stuff to talk about that's going to be motivating, you know, stimulating to the mind, that's going to elevate your conscious. And, you know, success is more than a desire, man. It's a belief, man. But it's a belief that's supported by actions that's going to achieve the ultimate result. So, like I said, watch those 30 for 30s. Watch Mayweather's documentary on YouTube. People hate on Mayweather, the money team, but man, the dude came through a very rough childhood to be on top of his game, man. His mom was on drugs, his daddy sold drugs. I mean, this guy had all the odds stacked against him, man. You know, people are mad, oh man, shit, man. Sleeping on the floor with 4 of the kids, trying to, you know, find time to train and do all this and that, you know. Yeah, you know, it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off. You know, people can say certain things about the guy, but, you know, I look at him and, you know, here's somebody who doesn't drink, who doesn't do drugs, who will be at the club, you know, late night, and then turn around and go jog, you know, and work out while everybody else is in bed with a hangover. This is somebody who took their talents and monetized them, but still has something to show for afterwards. The guy owns multiple, you know, real estate investments, you know, all type of other commodities, and, you know, made a ton of money off of, you know, some, you know, drink deals and all type of stuff, man. And, you know, he might be, you know, people might get mad at him because they say he doesn't do certain things, I guess, for the community. I don't know him personally, but I'm just talking about his actions as far as what led to him becoming successful. I'm not talking about what you think he should be doing with his money, because anytime somebody has money, people always think they should be telling other people what to do with their money, which, you know, that's not my job. But I'm just saying the discipline, you know, the discipline Serena's father had for her and her sister to take up tennis, you know, the discipline that Steph Curry had to practice hours and hours, you know, even though they said he was too short, he wasn't fast enough, he wasn't, you know, he wasn't big enough to play in the league. You know, Lewis Hamilton, your go-kart is, you know, it's outdated. You're not going to be able to compete against these guys with better carts, and you know, you're a minority, and it's very hard for you guys in this sport. You know, they didn't pay attention to any of that. They just kept doing their thing. You know, Bob Johnson, you know, one of, you know, founder of BET, you know, the other brother who started Jet magazine, Jet, and I forgot the other magazine. I think it might have been Ebony, but he had one of the largest black publishing companies, and he put in the work, man. Excuse my lack of thought with his name, but he had a book called Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? I believe that's the name of the book. But he was a publicist. He was a businessman. He owned a lot of commercial real estate. Drove a Ferrari. He was doing his thing, man. But you know, like I said, these people had more than a desire. Their actions followed their beliefs, and they all were very successful. And you can be successful too, man. Big Herc 916.com. Check it out. Subscribe. Holler at me for some life coaching, and you know, get your life right. I'm out.